Hey guys, so we're doing a Zoom call today with Jack Wicks, which we're really excited about. We first met Jack last summer at, I think it was Cardiff Spurs PPN, where he was a guest speaker, and we clicked with him really well, loved his vibe and his honesty.
Yeah.
So we're checking in with him nearly a year on now, and within that year, Jack has already gone on to achieve so much more. I think you'd have seen on our Instagram stories some of his accolades in the last year are just insane. So we're going to pick his brains and get a lot of golden nuggets for you all. Sorry this couldn't go on the live as planned, but let's get started.
Yeah, first of all, Jack, tell us a little bit about what you've achieved in property today.
Cool. How you doing? Yeah, I was just thinking back to that first speech actually, and that was my first ever public speech, and it was basically just swearing for 90% of it.
I think that's what we liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, what was the question? I forgot already.
Tell us a little bit about your basically your achievements to date in property.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, started off, went on a 3-day course. This was in 2014, I think. I was 24. Went on a 3-day course with my brother, did the usual stuff, signed up, all that. But actually it kind of went exactly as they taught us. We walked the streets, found out the bad streets, good streets. This was in Hastings because my parents were living there. Called up some of the boards. She said, this one's not very good, to be honest, but we can take you to one that is off market. I was like, this is mad. They told us this would happen. So yeah, our first ever purchase was actually a block of 4 flats in Hastings. Which was, quite a big jump, but it was 250 grand to buy. We spent 70 and it was revalued at 340. So that was all in 6 months. So we managed to pretty much pull out most of the money. So yeah, at 24, having a successful first project, I was cocky bollocks running around thinking I was the best thing since sliced bread. Which led us to our biggest mistake to date, which was we basically used the money from that project to buy a £750,000 block of flats, seafront, town centre. It was 10 flats and a shop underneath. It was an ex-hotel, grade 2 listed. Yeah, we agreed to pay 750 on the basis of that was the asking price, so that's what we paid. We did a delayed completion deal on it, so we put 10% down. They allowed us access to do works. The idea was then we'd either sell them on or refinance, keep them. The revalue at the end, after all the works and 6 months worth of me going up there and doing all the work, was less than what we'd agreed to pay for it.
No.
Yeah, so that was a really shit time, but at the same time, I'm glad it happened now, so early on, because otherwise I'd have just gone bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until like the whole world fell apart basically. So there's a whole load of like lessons from that, like just the biggest one being don't take other people's money for granted. So now from that, luckily we didn't lose that money because the project went so well on the first one. We basically just sort of got the money from that and secured and gave the investor their money back still. So that was lucky. And yeah, like I say, the lessons learned from that is that treat other people's money as if it were your own, or actually worse than that, as if it was your last amount of money in the world kind of thing. It's like that is way more important than anything. And you should always try and make sure that other people's money is as safe as you use it yourself, because it's really easy to take other people's money and invest it in stuff that you think will work and sort of like risk stuff that's not yours. And until you feel that feeling in your stomach when you potentially losing that, yeah, it was definitely a sobering experience. And I've been slightly less cocky ever since.
Cool.
So taking it back a step then, you said you and your brother went on a training course. What made you want to book on that course? Why property?
So myself and my brother's 20 years older than me, and we bought a flat. It's really weird. We bought a flat in the same block, which was about half a mile up the road from my family home. And yeah, we bought it a similar time. He was about 6 months after I bought it, but mine was a repossession.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go through the whole process of almost bidding. The agent then had to put it in a newspaper and all that kind of stuff. But I'd built such a rapport with that agent that she rang me at one point and she said, listen, we're not going to view this with anyone else. We're not going to take any more offers. It's going in a newspaper somewhere up north, and you're going to get it, basically. And that was my first sort of experience of building rapport, because she just wanted us to have it, because it was going to be our first home. We'd put proper good offers in. We were serious, and she like really appreciated that, and they wanted us to get the deal.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to complete in 28 days on a first time buyer mortgage. So every day when I was at work, I was working in a pub at this time, I was sneaking off into the kitchen, ringing the solicitor, where are we? What do we need? What do you need from me? And we got it all through. And it was that, weirdly enjoyed the whole process from start to finish, the bidding process, the pushing the solicitors into stuff. Couldn't think of anything worse now, but yeah, it was that. Yeah, I just kind of fell in love with it straight away, even though it was a personal purchase. Yeah, and then my brother did similar. He got a really good deal in the same block, and I think we've worked together our whole lives pretty much. Sam had been working in a pub from 16, and I've kind of followed him around everywhere. We were on the train together to go to work, and he saw like a little thing in I think it was the Metro or something like that. And yeah, we just thought we'd go along, and yeah, Sam's worse than me in terms of buying stuff, so he was like straight to the back of the room. But yeah, it all worked. That free 3-day course was what kind of changed it for me, because I didn't realize you could increase value and then refinance on the new value. I was like, holy shit, that's how people build massive portfolios. This is nuts. So it was that one bit of information that I took from that whole event that I was just like, that's it. Like, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, definitely. So during your time in property, you've done a lot, for example, developments, rent to rent, you've had your online course and all sorts of things like that. But a lot of your success has come from your rent to rent portfolio.
Yeah.
So for people in, newbies that are listening right now, could you explain to begin with what rent to HMO actually is?
Yeah, so it's kind of in two parts. You can either take on an already running HMO, it could be a student let, for instance. The landlord has got loads of them, hasn't got loads of money that he wants to spend on them, but because of new blocks of purpose-built student accommodation, he's not renting it like he used to. We can come along, spend a couple of grand on making it modern and making it actually nice for the students, and we can rent it out for more than we're paying the landlord. So you can make anywhere from 500 to our best deals, 1,500 quid a month in profit. We're in Surrey, so prices are higher, but that means our margin's higher. But the margins we get are from the second option, which is we turn a single let into a multi-let, which is obviously more complicated, comes with its issues, but yeah, we essentially have to apply for the license. We have to make sure that all the HMO regs are in place. If not, we do them. And then we'll convert a living room or 2 living rooms into bedrooms. And that's where we get the big margins.
Cool.
So
Sorry, I've got really bad hay fever, by the way. It's the first time I've ever had hay fever in my life, and it's killing me.
Yeah, I had it last year for the first time, and it was awful.
Livid.
So talking through rent to rents or rent to HMOs, you've just mentioned about how you can make a margin and make the benefits to the investor. What is the benefits for the landlord?
Okay, yeah. So this is the thing that always annoys me about people. When people think about rent to rent, they think, when they're trying to get them, they go out thinking, I hope this landlord does me a favour and lets me have his property. It's completely the wrong way of thinking about it. You're giving a landlord up to 5 years guaranteed rents. You're going to deal with maintenance issues. You're going to make sure that he can just sit around for the next 5 years and do nothing. If there's major issues, we'll still deal with them, and then we'll just either pay him less in rent or he pays us. But there's no stress there. We don't ring him up panicking. We just tell him this has been dealt with. This is how much it's going to cost. So for a landlord, it's extremely beneficial.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now I understand what a rent to HMO is. So from now, what sort of things need to be put in place in order to start your rent to rent portfolio? So, for example, compliance or anything in that regard?
My least favourite word in the world. Yeah, so I mean, more recently there's been a few things with client money protection. Do we need it as rent-to-renters? Do we not? I don't believe you do, because we don't hold any client's money. You know, the rent that we pay our landlord, he gets. We don't hold anything from him. Deposits we get from tenants is held in a deposit scheme, so we're not holding their money. The rents we receive is our money now, because they've just paid us. So in my opinion, you don't need it. We've gone and got it just to avoid any comeback. But yeah, so client money protection, you're going to need to be part of the NLA. And you'll need public liability, professional liability, that kind of stuff, but nothing too major.
So the stuff that you just mentioned then, so like the insurances and possibly the client money protection, some of them will incur costs, obviously, to set up or ongoing for insurance. Are there any other costs people need to consider when they're looking to start a rent-to-rent business?
Only the upfront cost of getting into a rent-to-rent. So it's coined as a no money down, which it's not. As most of these things aren't. There's always some amount of money that goes in. Ours range from £4,000 to £10,000 because our rents range from £1,500 to £2,500. So you're always going to have to put an upfront rent down. That's just simple. So if it's £2,500, then you've got to find £2,500. If they want a deposit, we try and push them onto deposit replacement insurance schemes, which means the landlord still gets 6 weeks worth of deposit, but we only pay for a policy essentially that covers them. Furniture, you're likely going to want to replace the furniture if there is any, especially on the student let types. That's probably 90% of why people don't want to rent it, because it's this horrible pine crap furniture that they've left in there for 17 years. So you're going to have to do that. But again, if you want to go down the route of leasing, you can lease the furniture with, and all it's going to do is affect your monthly profit, but it means you've got less upfront cost. So yeah, people forget about how quickly those things can add up as well. So whenever I teach people, I always tell them to kind of err on the side of caution and kind of say, look, each deal is going to be 10 grand. Obviously, it depends on where you are in the country and stuff, but yeah, for us, we always think 10 grand. If we can go and get an investor who wants to get involved in 5 deals, we make sure they've got 50 grand and they can pass reference in. Then we know we might be able to get 6 or 7 or 8 deals out of that. But rather than going back to them and going, oh, we've only managed 3, we need some more money, I'd rather do it the other way around.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that you just touched upon it as well. You always give really good information out on your Instagram on rent to rents, and referencing is one of the big things that sometimes people overlook, and that's where people can get caught out. Yeah,
nobody teaches that, which is really weird. I don't know what the relevance is to not tell people that they're going to need to pass referencing. If you go direct, people think if you go direct you don't need the referencing, but if a landlord wants to reference you, they're still going to. So you've got to make sure the worst case scenario, it's 36 times the monthly rent you need to have in yearly earnings. That can be split between directors. So it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 people who are directors of the company. Obviously, if there's one, it's a lot easier. I'm getting pinged here. Let me put me on mute somehow. Oh no, because then I can't hear you. Never mind.
Okay, cool. So we know what a rent to rent is. We've put our things in place in order to go out now. So what would you say are the most effective ways to source rent to rents?
Agents.
So agents, definitely the best.
Easily, yeah. 95% of ours are from agents. The other 5% are from recommendations from the landlords we got from agents. We're going to massively up our game. At the moment, we're just about to send out a load of direct-to-vendor letters, but we've never done it before. Just because everyone's going to be at home and everyone's going to be stressing, and they're going to be more happy to receive these letters while we're in our current situation. And I also think it then opens the doors for lease options and other creative stuff. But yeah, in general, people are scared of agents because they don't want to get it wrong with them. But everyone just needs to remember that 90% of letting agents are idiots, and they don't actually know what you're talking about. So the reason they say no is because they don't understand and they don't want to try. So they'll tell you a load of bullshit stories about it not being the company doesn't do it and all this sort of stuff. And it's just knowing how to negate those those responses, and it's generally pretty easy. So yeah, I mean, I always sort of spend a lot of time focusing on the agents, because they get a whole lot. If you get an agent on board, that's what the landlord trusts. Whatever they say, they'll normally go with. So if they can push you properly and understand how you work properly, the landlord's just going to say, all right, well, if you trust them, then I'll go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we had one agent that got us, I got one deal from one agent, and the next agent got me the next 3 within 3 months.
That's cool. And in terms of when you're analysing your deals then, and you're finding potential properties, what do you look for to know that that's going to operate well as an HMO?
So there's a lot of, if you haven't got any in the area, there's a lot that you need to go into. So we essentially find our main area, which wants to be within 10-mile radius of you and your house, because you're going to need to go to them. We then find 3 micro areas within that town or city, because each micro area is going to have its own tenant type and a reason for it being good. So it may be based around a big hotel chain or loads of hotels. I've got the airport. Heathrow Airport's just 5 minutes from me. We've got a place called Woking, which is kind of a semi-big city, but it's like 20 minutes into London on the train. And it's also got a McLaren, Mercedes-Benz World, all that kind of stuff. So again, we're very much, that's our tenant type, is people that work there. We've got a load of golf courses in Surrey as well. So we get a lot of people come over from Scotland or Ireland to work on the golf courses. So each kind of micro, it's really important to have those micro areas within that area, because they're going to be a completely different level of tenant, and you're going to have to do the house in a completely different way. And your rents in are going to be slightly different for each sort of micro area.
Cool. Okay. So I've ticked the boxes. I know it's going to work well as an HMO. So then what's next then? Like, how do you set up your HMO? Do you get someone to do that? What's the process then?
I just hand it over to Sam, and it's all just magically gets done, basically. No, we upped up last year. We started to see a few voids and stuff from the older ones that I'd probably set up, because the level now has to be so much higher. There's so many more on the market, and tenants aren't just going to stay in crap anymore. So we went back through, and we've kind of really cookie cutted what we do now. So all of the furniture's the same, the beds are the same, and they're not expensive. I think the beds and mattresses are like 200 quid. I think we're around 500 to 600 quid a room in cost. But it just looks nice. There's nice lighting, making sure there's no empty walls, there's no empty surfaces. There's like an alarm clock on the bedside, or there's something so that when they go in, they sort of can see themselves living in there. And it's really important to kind of focus on design a little bit. You don't have to go too mad. Again, it's down to that micro area that you've chosen, because if it's going to be people working at the airport and they're all learning how to be a pilot, you're going to have to go a fairly high standard compared to the guys that are just going to be on contract work and go back up north every weekend. They just want a bed to stay on. So you need to be careful, because with rent to rent, every penny you spend is longer for you to get back to even. So you have to watch every pound without being too stingy and not renting the rooms because you've just been tight.
Finding that right balance. So how do you find your tenants, and do you self-manage?
Yeah, we self-manage. So Sam is now on about he's probably part-time now. Does maybe, I don't know, 10 hours a week or so, and then we've got a part-time employee who does 20 hours a week. So we've got 92 tenants at the minute, I believe. So for essentially 30 hours a week, it's getting fully managed. We've got loads of systems in place, and it kind of takes me nicely onto the fact we're actually hoping to release our own management software
That'd be cool.
at the beginning of this summer. Yeah, so that's really cool. That's been sort of bubbling in the background. So it'll essentially be a tenant management software for single lets, multi-lets, etc. And I've just we've all worked together to put in and make everything as automated as possible to make that job easier. So hopefully we'll be able to reduce that even further once this is released and able to be used.
Perfect.
Cool. So you've got your tenants in, you're managing the property. How would you say what would you say the best ways to get the best? My question is, how do you get the best out of your HMO at that point?
In terms of money?
Yeah, so like you manage yourself, don't you?
Yeah.
So what are the like key tips to management to make sure you get the best out of the best out of your HMO at that point?
Okay, so it's all about systems. Everything has to be systemized, and you need to be professional in your. Well, we use spare room. 90% of our tenants are from spare room. It's very important to have professional photos, have a full list of exactly what's in the local area. Everything's got to be as in-depth as possible because that is your advert. We've played around with Facebook ads to direct people to the spare room, which kind of works. But ultimately, spare room is your advert. So that's got to be on point constantly. We work directly with some companies, so it's worth calling around those, speaking to the HR guys. But yeah, ultimately, you're probably going to push them to your spare room as well. So yeah, I mean, we also work, we've got a tenant discount club. So we work with a company who deal with 90 tenants plus. So we're about to do, again, like another, you can tell I've been bored. Another kind of new business venture is that we're going to be working with them to provide tenant discount club for anyone with one tenant up to 90 or so. So what it does is we offer all of our tenants, we pay for it, and all of our tenants get discount on Sainsbury's, Tesco's, Ubers, cinema, all that kind of stuff as part of their tenancy. So again, in terms of retention of tenants, this is really important. People don't really focus on retaining their current tenants as much as they should, but also getting new tenants on. We had someone that came to us and she was in between ours and somebody else's. Sam reminded her of the discount clubs and she chose ours. So it's those little things. But yeah, retention's massive. People don't really, once people are in, they're like, yeah, cool, pay me my money and I don't care about you. We check in all the time with our tenants, find out if, how is the house? Yeah. Is there anything we can do? Have you been using the discount club? What do you think? Is it good or not? All those sorts of things. So they know that we care. So there should never be a reason other than moving away from the area that they leave.
Yeah, really they just goes the extra mile, doesn't it? And like you said, it's a lot of that's an area people should be focusing on, not overlooking.
Yeah, because as a business, to find a new tenant, to actually find them, you're going to probably have to, on average, do 5 viewings or so. Then you've got to go through the process of getting the deposit in, and all that process is quite painful. And even letting someone leave, you've then got to release the deposit. You've then got to, all that stuff's got to happen, cleaning the room, getting it all ready. It's painful. So it saves a huge amount of time if you can retain current tenants. Even if they wanted a discount, I'd give it to them. If they said I'm leaving because somewhere's 15 quid cheaper, I'd probably just say, well, if you stay, we'll do the same.
Yeah. And in terms of, so you've mentioned that's an area that people tend to overlook when they're operating rent to rent. What would you say are the most common mistakes investors make when they use this strategy?
So people focus on deals rather than quality of deals. They'd much rather run around on Facebook telling everyone I've got 15 rent to rents with no mention, funnily enough, of the profits or how it's going. And then they always, in 6 months' time, they seem to go very quiet when they're obviously like up to their eyeballs in voids and poor quality tenants. Because that's another thing. I see people just trying to fill the rooms any which way. Yeah, it's fine if you've got a cat. Yeah, you can bring your mate with you. All these things just to fill the rooms because they're panicking. So yeah, it's people shouldn't do deals for the deal's sake. It's just silly, and you're going to get yourself caught up. I don't think people realise the commitment they're making on a rent to rent, because if it's only $5,000 in and you get your money back out, but you've got to commit to that for 3 years, and if you don't, you can get taken to court for the full contract amount, right? And it's a lot of money, and people don't think about how serious it could be if they don't fill that room.
Yeah. So I think to summarize then, your tips are make sure you balance the finances correctly, but you make the room look modern, you make it homely, it's attractive to tenants, your ad is tip top on spare room, you focus on retaining your clients.
Yeah, and just taking the strategy as a whole, I guess, is there any top tips that you would give, or any lessons you've sort of learned that you can just give away?
It's difficult without doing it, because you can read as many books and listen to as many people. I'd always say get a mentor. There's loads out there, but also a big mistake I've made in the past is getting a mentor because of what they knew, even if I didn't really get on with them. And I think it's very important, because with a few mentors that I've had and paid for, I found I was just ignoring the information they were giving me, because I was just like, I didn't like them or agree with a lot of the stuff they did. So it's important when you get a mentor, not just someone who seems to know what they're talking about, but someone you can almost have a conversation with about something else rather than just business, because you're then going to trust them, because you're essentially going in blind. You want to be able to trust that person implicitly with the fact you're about to commit $2,500 a month for the next 3 years, and you're going to make profit based on what they're telling you. That's what you pay people for. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, something we're looking at the moment is actually guaranteeing an income based on our training, because there's nobody that's actually putting their neck on the lines. They'll give you your money back for a course if you didn't like the course, but they're not going to give you your money back if you don't come out making a certain amount of cash. So we've got plans in at the moment where we'll sort of have a challenge, but it will be kind of like, we're guaranteeing that you're going to make that money, and if you don't, we'll give you your money back.
That's amazing. So good.
But we've got to work out the intricacies of that. The problem is you're going to have people that don't do stuff. So there's going to be an element of, we need proof that you've actually got off your ass and done what we've told you. So yeah, I mean, we've got one client at the moment on our guaranteed $5,000 a month in 12 months. So that's what we've guaranteed. And again, these things are sort of application process type things, because we need to know that they've got what it takes, and then they are going to sort of go out and do it. So that's going really well, and that's not just rent to rent. That's any creative strategy that's going to result in cash flow, basically.
Yeah. Fine.
Okay, cool. So something I see a lot on the Facebook groups and people asking questions is that they ask, what are the advantages and disadvantages of both having, professionals or students within your HMO?
Yeah. We don't do students. We've got Royal Holloway near me, which is a really posh school, but we've just never ventured into it. The margins are harder to get because it's already an HMO. They're used to what they're getting. You can do all right. We've just not needed to do anything else, because we've always had quite a good flow of deals. So yeah, we've gone for professionals, and they're always pretty good. You always get the odd one. I've had more problems with my single lets than I've had in our HMOs.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's interesting, actually. I saw I had an email not long ago from an agent in Cardiff. It was one of the newsletters they send out, and it was basically painting the picture the students are just becoming way more high maintenance than they used to be. And they were saying that the properties in Cardiff, or the HMOs in Cardiff, the only ones that were really renting out straight away as soon as they listed were the ones with en-suites.
Wow.
So
well, it definitely has. It definitely has in terms of quality, because they can just go to halls. No one wants to live in halls, but that the accommodation's got to be good. I mean, some of that. My mate used to go to Southampton Uni, and that house was just ridiculous. So bad. It was so bad.
I've seen some real bad ones at university.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we've touched upon the systems that you said. You're big on systems. You've got your Rent to Rent Systems Facebook group. And for those who may not be part of that, can you give us an overview on it, and then maybe touch upon any other information you have on the systems?
Yeah, so essentially I did a JV last year with a couple of guys who run an awesome business called Systems and Outsourcing. Their entire business is just to outsource what you do. So Sam and I sort of sat there and went, we need to outsource our business here, because both Sam and I were full-time doing everything. And their online training and coaching and all that stuff was just so good. It was all done on something called Asana.
Yeah.
God, it sounds so bad. And so I literally said to the guys, I called Steve and said, can I copy the way you do your coaching for my rent to rent business? And he was like, well, it's taken us years to kind of get to this level. It's not ideal, but I can't stop you. And then he said, who's gonna teach people how to use Asana? Are you gonna do that? And I was like, yeah, not really that good at using it myself, so probably not. So he sort of said, well, why don't we work on something together, which is what we've done. So we've sort of got systems for rent to rent, which is a combination of the two companies. So I'm the front facing one. Those guys do everything in the background, creating the systems. So yeah, it's kind of a combination of the two businesses. So it works really well.
Cool. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the rent to rent stuff. We have some quick fire questions here, basically, from Instagram people and also us as well.
Instagram people.
Can we start with the bottom one? Because it's the best. Shaz wants to know, how do you get your hair so spot on?
Wow, yeah, it's a rigorous routine. It's well out of kilter at the moment. I'm literally having to. I'm getting Ali to watch YouTube videos on how to do a fade. So
we tried to do a fade, we ended up shaving it all off. So I mean,
oh, really? I'm not going to see a shaved head, but yeah, we'll have to see how perfect my hair is in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because I put ask Jack some questions, and Shaz put, how does he get his hair so spot on? And then he put in brackets, serious questions. Yeah. Go on then.
I was going to say, so one of the questions was, you funded a deal in Blackpool with Investor Finance. Please, can you let everyone know what this is and how it works?
Not Investor Finance. It's
Vendor
Finance. Sorry.
Yeah. So we haven't completed on that yet because of what's happening. Basically, they've so it's a really weird deal, but this is why I like it so much. So it's accommodation for a dance school that's in Blackpool. They've been the only accommodation that the dance school will promote for the last 8 years. So there's 32 beds. It's not bedrooms, it's beds. They're sort of like dorm room style. So the girls are anywhere from 16 to 22, and they kind of go off and do cruise ships and things like that. But it's a really well-known dance school, so it's quite a big deal. They basically, I went to meet them because it was passed to me by a sourcer, and I couldn't increase the value because it's perfect. So I was trying to think of a way in which I can then get my money back out. So I went to meet them and wanted to find out, because they wanted to continue living there in the owner's accommodation, and she cleans and does food for them and stuff like that. And she wanted to continue for the next 5 years. So I was like, why are you selling then if that's what you want to do? Transpired that they basically put the house up as collateral for a business, for a family business. The family messed it all up and then fucked off to France or something, leaving them with like this huge debt. So the purchase price is 240k. They've got 170 grand in debt, which is something like 2.5 grand a month. So it's huge, high interest. So that was their reason for selling. So it wasn't so much the money, it was more that just had bad feeling attached to it. So they wanted to just clear the debt and continue living there for the next 5 years until they decided what they wanted to do. So I came up with the plan of vendor finance. So we basically have got an offer at 75%, which they would then leave 25% in, which means that they get 180k up front. So it clears their debt plus gives them 10 grand. We then, they leave 60 grand in, which we are going to repay them on an interest and capital basis. So we've agreed 5% interest per year. They then get £1,000 a month plus the interest each month. So by the end of the 5 years, 60 months, their full debt's been repaid. We've then got 60 grand in equity, and we've not needed a penny other than legals to get into it. But it kind of gets more interesting. So at the moment, it's 62 grand gross income from the school. So it's huge income. They're currently only there for 3 days a week. That's going to go up to 5 days. So the income goes up to near enough 100k a year. So it's massive. And what I hadn't factored in is the fact that in 2 years' time, when the mortgage is due for renewal, we can actually push it onto a commercial, which at the moment, I've been advised by someone that the commercial rough rate is 10 times the annual income, which is just ridiculous. So yeah, we'll be able to pull out a whole load of money and still cash flow incredibly well for a deal that we've just probably need $1 grand to get into.
That is amazing.
It's amazing the creative strategies that really can.
Yeah, Because she's going to run it for 5 years. She's going to clean, do all that stuff for us still. So it's completely hands off. It's this is going to be basically a personal purchase. It's going to be in a company, but my wife and I have created one specifically for the deal because we're basically looking to sell our personal home to release all the equity. So we haven't needed to use any equity on this one, luckily. So that's just got us kicked off, and then we're just going to rent based off of the income from it.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, I'm excited to see how that one turns out.
Yeah.
So the next one we have is, you're in the process of purchasing a development which has got the potential to profit around 1 million. What are the best things you've learned from this experience?
Oh, wow. This has been another classic Jack Wicks situation. So we basically, this was a rent-to-rent that we had. We turned it into 10 beds. And we've run it for the last 3 years or something. And it's about £2,000 a month, I think. It's basically, one side is a 6-bed HMO. The other side was a 3-bed. We turned it into 4. And she wanted to sell before, and it fell through. We ended up basically just saying, she gave us first refusal. She said, if I'm going to sell it, I'll give it to you first. So we pushed her into sort of like, we want to buy it now. So we agreed 750 for the purchase, with a delayed completion of a year, which would run in line with the rent-to-rent contract coming to an end. So in that year, we managed to get planning for 12 flats. So it was a conversion of the existing into 6, and then a new build, because it's on a corner plot, it's for another 6. So the GDV is 3.4 million, which is incredible. So we managed to get an investor come in 50-50, puts all the money in, and he's got build experience, so it's even better. So we were kind of there, and we had the deadline. Then they basically just on completion day went quiet. And 3 months down the line, we're yet to hear from them. So our finance has all been pulled. The investors had to pull his money out because it needs to be used somewhere. And we've now had to get litigators involved. None of them can understand because it's just completely illegal not to complete once you've exchanged contracts. They've obviously found out that we've got planning, and they're trying to do anything they can, but at the moment they're just racking up ridiculous costs because we're going to be able to claim for loss of potential earnings and all that kind of stuff. So it's all very complicated, and something everyone that I speak to are like, I've never heard of this happening ever. I'm like, I'm so glad I'm the first. But yeah, the litigator we spoke to, he's like a really big in town, and he said, oh, don't worry about this. I'm going to call him up, and it will all complete straight away. And he hasn't been able to get hold of the guy.
He's just chuckling away. You've got to come on now just because you said you're so glad you're the first. I'm going to leave him to it. Well, hopefully that gets resolved, because that's just a nightmare.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I'm glad he's finding it funny anyway. Yeah, I laughed. I've not stopped laughing either, to be fair.
Oh, if you don't laugh, you'll cry, won't you? Right, okay. Right, I like this question. You exaggerate that the 24/7 hustle stuff is bullshit. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of a work-life balance? Yeah, for me, I absolutely hate that saying in general, but yeah, it is. People seem to like, and it's all that whole like, you should eat pot noodles for 3 years to then do stuff that other people won't, and it's just absolute bollocks. It's like, why would you want to spend your 20s, the best years of your life, sort of like just bunkered down, working every hour that God gives you, and not enjoying any minute of it? Like, you should enjoy the entire process. So if it takes double the amount of time but you've loved it, it's much better than having 5 or 10 years of just hating life just to get to a point. I really think it's important to spend time with friends, family, cut off from work as much as you can. My head's always going, but I kind of
yeah, that's why alcohol's great. You just go to the pub.
I think that's why you've grown such a big following as well, just because you're so honest and open. You see a lot of these people on Facebook bragging out they're up since 5 in the morning, they're working until midnight, and they eat, sleep, and live work. And it's like, you need a life.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones that get me when they're like in the office. Is anyone as sad as me in the office at 9? It's like, well, you shouldn't be in the office at 9. You should be at home with your children and your wife or husband or whatever. Because, yeah, if you're lucky enough to have that, then obviously if you're single and you're young and you want to just get ahead, then it's slightly different. But at the same point, it's, you know, you still need to be spending time with other people and get your head out of it. Because I think you can overthink so much if you're just constant work, and you will just plummet at one point.
Yeah,
it's not healthy.
I just wanted to add something to that as well. How do you sort of structure things then? Do you do a certain amount of hours per day and then, you know, exercise, or what's your sort of structure that you? Yeah,
so I've really struggled with routine just because I'm a rebel in general. But yeah, I've kind of, especially with the lockdown, more than ever, we've needed to massively do that. So I've got a 1-year-old, just started walking, he's running about everywhere. So Ali's trying to do her Forex training stuff. I'm trying to do all these other new businesses and create stuff, social media, all those things that take time. And he's running over, getting in my way, and we were just at each other's throat all the time because nobody knew who was getting what time with. And then I'm like, oh, I've looked after him for ages. Can you have a go? And who's doing dinner? Like, it becomes really stressful.
Yeah.
So this week we've like really been militant with it, and it's like my shoulders are just so much like lower now, whereas before it was just so tense, not knowing. Whereas now we've got a set structure of exactly what happens. Obviously, there's movability of that. If we get up late because he's woke us up early or in the middle of the night or something, everything just shifts along. So yeah, I get up about 6:30 at the minute. I've just started yoga.
Oh, how's that going?
Really hard. I did not expect it to be that hard. But yeah, so I'm trying to sort of do stuff like that. And then I go for like an hour walk where I record a load of videos because I'm doing a TikTok challenge.
Yeah.
So I go for a walk, do a load of videos and stuff and get some exercise in. Then I come in, take over from Ali, and she does her exercise and stuff like that. Yeah, so we've kind of got a bit more of a set structure, which will obviously change when we're out of quarantine and stuff. But yeah, the idea of the structure makes a lot more sense to me now when you can actually see the benefits.
Yeah. And the TikTok challenge you just mentioned, you're doing 60 days to 60k followers, I think it is, isn't it? What's your opinion on TikTok?
Since I've been posting on it, it's made me really excited about what is going to happen, basically. It's insane. I mean, I think it was like one of the videos I did got randomly 27,000 views. The rest are like 1,500. So it's just a bit of an anomaly, which was about lease options. And I think that on the analytics, 180 hours worth of viewing on it, which is just incredible. And loads of people have then been clicking through to my Instagram, messaging me, how do I get started? So it's actually the click-throughs of it. And I do think it's going to be a lot bigger than people expect. And there's more depth to it than miming to stuff and dancing, which everybody kind of just thinks it is at the minute. 6 months ago, it was a lot worse, but now there's a lot of entrepreneurs going on there giving tips, and everybody's giving away really good information.
We were at an event in Birmingham in November, and Gary Vaynerchuk did a talk, and he had said everyone needs to be on TikTok. It's all kids at the moment. It's going to change. You need to be on it now before all the algorithms kick in. It's going to blow up. We've never heard of it. You wanted to start going on it, and it's already rapidly starting to become that. Yeah,
it's like Gary V says. He puts the LinkedIn's just for people in work. Facebook was just for students. Instagram's just for, you know, people dolling themselves up and stuff. And then it's like TikTok, don't let that be next, sort of thing. So, yeah, I think. One question I wanted to ask you was, so from where you link your TikTok over to your Instagram, do you just put your Instagram in the bio?
No, so they have an Instagram logo on your TikTok profile.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
That's
They
cool.
literally, yeah, it's literally one, and you can do YouTube as well. They let you do both. So people can just click directly on that, because TikTok doesn't, unless you both follow each other, you can't message people on it. So people will then just go, oh, because I can on Instagram, they'll go over to Instagram and message me there.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, it's the potential for reach and growing. I mean, yeah, I've been doing the challenge since Monday, and I went from 300. I'm just over 1,000 now.
Yeah, you'll within 60 days, you'll have way more than 60k, I reckon.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's more of a like headline figure. Like the followers don't really mean that much unless they're getting involved. But generally, that comes with it, sort of messages and stuff like that. But the share is so shareable, TikTok, which is why I think it's popular.
Yeah.
Because you can, one button, you can share it to WhatsApp, Instagram, YouTube, like everywhere. They just make it really simple.
Yeah. I suppose we've got to ask, what are your top tips then?
What for?
TikTok.
Just at the moment, obviously, I'm new to it, but just basically find other accounts that are kind of along the lines of what you want to be producing, and just do it in your own way. I sort of go through and think, oh, that's a really good idea for content or whatever, and I'll save it and then just kind of redo it. But a lot of it's like my 3 favorite books, and you can kind of put the book in the background of the TikTok video and things like that. Just genuine sort of good tips for people. But yeah, the difficulty I'm having is property is generally quite a boring subject, and things like TikTok and YouTube and stuff, people are there to be entertained, so no one's going to share a video of you boringly explaining what a mortgage product is or something like that. You kind of need to try and do it in a bit of an entertaining way so that people are going to send it to their mate and go, oh, watch this. Because that's when you get the traction, when people start forwarding it to people. So I'm trying to sort of figure out ways in which I can make it a bit more interesting, especially because the demographic is younger. They're all still like wanting to find out, how can I make money at 16, 17, 18? And obviously with the stuff we do, it's entirely possible.
Interesting.
Okay, next one then. So you're starting a podcast to do with personal branding, and you clearly have a successful personal brand. What do you think are the key benefits of having a personal brand?
Yeah, so me and Chris Taylor, I don't know if you've heard of him, Mr. Instagram. He basically helped me with my Instagram about a year ago. I had like 300 followers or something like that. We got up to 12,000 within the year. So he knows it ridiculous amount. So we met about a year and a half ago, and you meet those people that you know you're going to do something with. So we've kind of always spoke since then. We went on the public speaking course together and stuff. I've sort of wanting to get people to realize the importance of a personal brand, and he's obviously got the Instagram thing. I'm obviously going to do TikTok, and then, you know, when we get success with that, I can kind of help people. But in general, we're just going to try and go through and prove each point and then show people how we did it. So everything from writing a book to a podcast, you know, we're going to run a successful podcast and then show you what we did. So then you can do a podcast which elevates your personal brand. So we're just going to do stuff, prove it's possible and what came from it, and then show people how to do it. So eventually the idea is that we have a kind of key person of influence type course or training, so that people can go in and go, this is what I want to get out of her personal brand. And we can say, right, go off and do a book, go off and do this based on actual experience rather than just theory.
Yeah. That's cool. So the next one we have is, we
kind of covered
we have
now.
covered that one. So covered that one.
Last one.
Second. Oh no, it's the last one. Yeah. Can we get some advice on changing terms with mortgage companies to allow rent to HMOs? That's a good one.
Yeah, you just have to, in terms of us with a landlord, I presume that means, there's no other way other than just putting them to a mortgage advisor that you know, telling them the situation that they need to go to an HMO mortgage. And if they don't want to change it, or it's too expensive or something, then you need to look into your figures and see whether or not you could subsidize that cost. It's just a negotiation. Ultimately, they have to get a change of use. Most will probably be running HMOs under a standard buy-to-let mortgage. That's their prerogative. I don't get involved in the mortgages of landlords. That's their responsibility. We're doing everything else for them. So like if they want to be, it's just not, a letting agent wouldn't go and ask them when they want to let out a property, whether they've got a buy-to-let mortgage, or they don't ask to see this stuff. I don't believe that it's our responsibility to tell a landlord how to be a landlord. No. We're telling them upfront what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. After that, that's on them. So yeah.
100%. That is all the questions. This is when I tell you I didn't click record. Imagine. I see your eyes look to check.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I think when I was doing podcasting, I was going to do my own podcast a while back, and the amount of times I think I did a full interview with someone and it wasn't recorded. So upset, like an hour and a half.
No, it's fully recorded, and I honestly think when people listen back to this, they're going to learn so much from it. Although I know so many questions grilled you on rent to rent there, but a lot of lessons to be learned. So for those who would be looking to then contact you, join your rent to rent systems, all of the stuff that you offer, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so Facebook, it's Jack Wicks UK, or just Jack Wicks, my personal profile. The group's called Systems for Rent to Rent with Jack Wicks. So just click on that, answer the questions, and then you're in. Instagram's Jack Wicks UK, TikTok's Jack Wicks UK.
Cool. And yeah, thanks very much for that, Jack. Really, really good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.